How's it going, everyone? We are here to talk about some kickers for Week 13 on FanDuel. Got Denny Carter here. How's it going, Denny?
I am a little tilted over not using Justin Tucker in all my tournament lineups last week, but it was nice to have him in at least one cash lineup. He was like, he compensated for like two total bombs I had at wide receiver. So
Yeah, I was talking with Jason, and we were saying if you had Tucker and Giants D, you basically had 50 points right off the bat.
yeah.
And, I had to tweet it out because, we share the good weeks. We got to share the bad ones. I mean, I had a lineup that was a 66, you know?
Oh man.
So you were almost there.
I know. No, I had, you know what? I need to do that. I need to find my worst lineup for last week and tweet that out because there was a lineup where I had one. Oh, I had Cap, so that was nice. But then you just go from quarterback on down, and it was like 3, 7, 0, 4.
Yeah, I mean, like I have below average weeks sometimes, but this one was so egregious. I was like, all right, I gotta show the people what happened this weekend because Cook's got a 0. Like Cooper, I don't know, but hopefully you guys had Justin Tucker and read the article. So before we get into this week's picks, you kind of threw something down here. Maybe give the people a little teaser on what you introduced, sort of.
Yes. Well, the people are always looking for sort of skeleton keys to picking kickers, and I wish there was, in all of fantasy football, I wish there were, like surefire ways to predict outcomes. Obviously, we don't have that. So what I did is I looked at the highest scoring teams in the league, the 10 highest scoring teams in the league, and how their kickers have done in 2016 through 12 weeks. What I found was, and I did this because total points scored is pretty closely correlated with kicker production. So what I found was that there's a lot of fluctuation in kicker fantasy production among these 10 teams, but the most reliable kickers, the kickers in the top 10 on the season, come from pass heavy offenses, whereas the run heavy teams on this list, including just say the Bills and the Panthers, who are near the bottom of the top 10, they have they have 22nd in kicker production for the Bills and 15th for Carolina. So they're less predictable, less consistent, less productive overall. That makes sense if we recall back from week 1 when we talked about passing yards are what we're interested in when we're looking for kicker plays, not necessarily rushing yards. So that's nice to see. I mean, it's a nice little confirmation. Dustin Hopkins is a guy who, in redraft, if you got Hopkins in week 1 and just have played him out, you've done pretty well. You have the 6th highest scoring kicker in the league, and he wasn't drafted anywhere. So there were some good findings. Nothing to change the way we look at kickers, unfortunately. But it was some decent stuff if people want to see it.
Yeah, and I think, you just break it down to the basic. You think of these offenses, you think of the Colts, you think of the Patriots, and, Vinatieri and Gostkowski have basically been the cornerstone kickers the last few years. Why? Their running game's inconsistent, and they have, awesome passing games. And you even think about, back to the Ravens and Flacco. I mean, their passing game isn't great, but their running game is certainly, just non-existent. So, I think even that, pushes their passing game sort of to that kicker direction anyway.
Yeah, right. The Ravens are a little different, I think, because their passing attack is not great, but it's voluminous. Like there's lots of passes being thrown, and they also, which this is something that we can't say for every kicker, Baltimore trusts Tucker to try any kick, anytime, anywhere. And that's something that you can only say about 3, maybe 4 kickers in the whole league.
Especially at this point. And I mean, I think we have to start valuing who's actually like able to kick the ball nowadays, because I mean, this is getting pretty wild with all the extra points and stuff.
I know.
But I guess, heading into this week, we were just talking about him. Pricey plays Justin Tucker against the Dolphins. 350-yarders in the first half last week. Obviously, they trust him. So, yeah, against this Dolphins defense, is that sort of where you're headed this week?
Yeah, Dolphins are allowing 2.3 field goal tries per game. Tucker leads the league in kicks made, and he's top 5 in kicks attempted this season. So obviously he's been very efficient. The problem with Tucker here is that he's $700 more than the minimum price
Yeah.
kicker. That's hard to stomach, right? Because kicker being what it is, you invest that much into the top price kicker, and you need 10, 12, maybe even more fantasy points in order to justify your investment, which is why I can't get Tucker into my cash lineup. But I think that he is a worthy tournament play if you can go super cheap, maybe at running back or quarterback or something, and do it that way.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And, even looking compared to the mid-price plays, he's 400, 500 more than some of these guys. That is a razor sharp room for error with Tucker.
Right. Yeah. So that's a good way to put it is, we all know Tucker's good. We all know he makes a bunch of long field goals. He gets a lot of opportunity, but you have to really bite the bullet to get him into your lineup.
Mm-hmm. In terms of those mid-price plays, you highlighted Matt Prater against the Saints. I think we're all pretty excited about that game.
Right.
But yeah, there's another offense that, just doesn't really have a consistent power running back. So.
Yeah, and the Saints secondary is atrocious. I'm looking forward to the score being 9-3 at halftime here. No, I don't see a scenario. I can't picture it where this is not a high scoring game. I think it's the highest total Vegas total of the week. Makes sense. It's in the dome. Well, it would be with either of these teams. So I guess that's saying.
Yeah, right.
But Detroit has a road total of 24.25 points. That's very high. Okay, that's something we don't see often. New Orleans gives up 3.5 red zone scoring chances per game, and so that's what we're looking for. And they've given up a bunch of shortish / mid range field goals. So that puts Prater, very much in play in any format this week.
That's a lot of red zone opportunities just for you playing at home.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, obviously this doesn't count all the long touchdowns they've given up, but this is just the short, the inside the 20 situations.
Absolutely. And Brandon McManus against the Jags, 4,700.
Yeah.
Pretty consistent at this point.
Yeah. No, this column would be incomplete if I didn't mention the kicker playing the Jaguars, but and the Jags are giving up by far the most fantasy production per game to kickers, despite Dan Carpenter completely flaming out last week, scoring 2 fantasy points, which is pretty devastating. But they're still giving up a lot of points. McManus is, regardless of matchup, is 5th in field goal tries per game at 2.5 and 8th in field goals made at 2.1. Only once this season has McManus not attempted at least 2 field goals. So that's, that tells us that this very conservative kind of, sputtering Denver offense is sort of prime territory for kicker opportunity.
Absolutely. Certainly something you see when you check out a Broncos game too. It's just like they sort of get down there and it's like, all right, this is going to be a field goal. I'm pretty happy about this.
Yeah, you're right. It seems, I mean, I feel like that's not abnormal for a Gary Kubiak team to get in range and then be like, we're good. We're good with field goals.
We're good with this possession. Low price play, a comeback story of sorts. He's actually looking pretty good now. Seems like he's kind of righted the ship a little bit. Robert Aguayo versus the Chargers.
Yeah.
At min price.
Yeah. So I broke, like I said in the article, I wrote in the article, I've broken my pledge to you, the reader, and I have recommended Roberto Aguayo this week. The reason is twofold. One, there are just on the main slate now, on the Thursday slate is different, but on the main slate, there are no minimum price kickers that jump out as having even decent matchups. Okay, you have to understand, I was looking for a reason not to do this. Okay, but I couldn't, and Aguayo's matchup is right this week. Okay, high total. I believe the total is not set high enough for a matchup between the Bucks and the Chargers, neither of whom sport very good defenses. So Aguayo being minimum priced has posted decent numbers of late. I know he missed a field goal last week, okay, and I understand that he had an apocalyptic start to the season. I don't know about you, Russ, but I thought that he was going to be a cut at some point.
It was heading in that direction. I mean, it was getting to the point where they literally probably couldn't put him out there anymore, but he did. He has turned it around.
Yeah. Yeah. And he has and this matchup is good. The Chargers are allowing 2 field goal attempts per game, along with 3.6 red zone scoring chances. So that's actually more than the Saints are giving up per game as far as inside the 20 scoring chances go. Aguayo has 5 performances of 8 or more fantasy points this year. So, if he scores 8 or 10, it won't be out of nowhere. He's done this before. And so I'm trying to make myself feel better about recommending this guy. But if you have to go minimum, I'm going Aguayo, no doubt.
Now, I just look at this game as a great game for scoring in general. Yeah. They might give you a little sweat on this entire game, might give you a sweat for fantasy. But I could see a game where one of these teams gets out to a huge lead and then the other team is just chipping away, coming back the entire time. And I think that's good for both Lambo and Aguayo. In terms of, I just think there's going to be a ton of opportunity in this game between, just 2 mediocre teams with pretty good offenses.
Yeah, Lambo was very close for me. His price was a little bit off for what I had him, looking at opportunity wise in this game. But I don't mind. I don't mind Lambo. This game, we're talking about. You said I hope one team gets out to a lead. Mike Evans owners always want the Bucks to win. So
no doubt.
Evan's going to see 22 targets in the game, and who cares if he only catches 8? There'll be 2 touchdowns. So
he is quite the fantasy asset. He just gets pelted with targets every week. It is delightful.
It is. It's quite nice to I mean, I don't have him in Dynasty, unfortunately. I really flubbed that one, but I can't think of a more valuable long-term fantasy player, right? Am I off here?
It's tough to really think, I mean, especially in terms of wide receivers, you look at him versus Odell Beckham and it's just like Jameis Winston is going to literally pelt this guy for the next 3 to 5 years, every game, you know?
Right. I mean, I just think the volume, just in and of itself, it's like the second coming of Megatron.
Yeah, basically. That's certainly what we're looking at. Is there anything else you want to throw out there before we head out for the week?
I would say that if you're a religious person, you should go ahead and cast up a prayer if you go with Aguayo this week. I'll say that.
I think that's really good advice. And probably, go pick apples with your family this weekend if you do.
Oh yeah, no, definitely don't watch that game. Just do something nice.
As always, you can check out Denny's article at dailyfantasycafe.com. If you like what we're doing on these videos, give us a like and subscribe. And as always, good luck this week, and we will see you guys in week 14.